Hello everyone, today we'll be delving into a world of anthropomorphic animalization as I check out Burrows and Badgers 2nd edition from Oathsworn. Okay then, Burrows and Badgers, the skirmish game of anthropomorphic animals. This is the 2nd edition, printed by Osprey, written by Michael Lovejoy and illustrated by Peter Johnson. It is hardback and, oh, she's a brute. Do we have a page count here? 270 plus your sheets at the back for keeping track of your animals. So, what is Burrows and Badgers? As you can see, it is a miniature skirmish game, and it is a comprehensive miniature skirmish game full of campaign expansion and a narrative, almost role-play-like element to it. The book contains everything you need to go all the way through building your force, playing your campaigns out in Northymbra, and also a 20 scenario long quest with side quests available. By the time you've played through that, you should have a fairly good gist of what the world is like and what the games are like to actually go and make your own versions of these up, if you need to. It finishes off with a bit of an appendix, including some optional rules. So you start off with a history of Northymbra on the Britannic Isles. So it's $7.99. Obviously on the Britannic Isles, that was the herald of the Viking Age, that same date. Anyway, you get a bit of a background, what is involved with miniature gaming, which I assume you will know if you're here, and the rules. Now, it plays on a relatively small board, 3x3 generally, and it plays using the polys, not all of them, but a goodly amount. And the interesting thing is the mechanic has a core roll-off, so it's generally opposed rolling. If somebody is good at something, they may have a higher dice value, like a d12. If they're poor at something, they may be sitting on a d4. But there's always the potential for a lowly squire to take out a heavily armoured knight, and that is due to perfect rolls or disastrous rolls. So when you roll the highest value a dice has, so if you roll a 4 on a d4 or a 6 on a d6, you get to add +7 to your roll. So for example, if that d4 is fighting a d12 and you get a 4 on the 4, the only thing that will beat it is a perfect roll on the d12, because 7 and 4 is 11. So you can see how you've always got the potential to get in there and give somebody a poke in the unmentionables. The unit statistics are movement, concealment, strike, awareness, block, fortitude, ranged, presence, and nimbleness. So a beefy stat line, which you want in a skirmish game where you want to do a lot of things, whether it's breaking down a door or attempting to dissuade somebody from being a terrible badger. And then your actions within the turn, as you can see, it's more than just move, fight, or shoot. You can guard, you can cast, you can sneak, you can search, you can interact with things. So it really is an involved narrative skirmish game. If I skip on a bit, rather go through all of the individual pieces in here, you have your band creation. So you start with 350 pennies. I believe they are new pence, not old. Pick an allegiance and record the den upgrade on your roster, and then go all the way through. So your animals within this world can be freely intermixed in most cases. And they will have a stat line, as you can see here. The dormouse or mouse has d6 mostly across the board. It's a relatively static little fellow. A tracker grub sitting with a big d8. And then they also have some skills applicable to them in some cases. So there are a lot of beasts that you can play with, from small to massive which the mouse is not mahusive. So you can build an entire band of one of these animals, so you could have nothing but birds, or you can mix them. So if you wanted to have squirrels, badgers, dormouse, fox, you know, it's all doable. There are, within the background, various sort of allegiances, houses, whatever you want to call it. So you can have your rogues and your free beasts and your royalists. So you can have a sort of an in-world narrative as well behind your warband of who they are and what they're doing. If I push on, we'll pass the magic and get into some of the more interesting stuff in our post-campaign. Here we go. So your campaign obviously gives you your usual sort of skill ups, experience, injuries. Over time, a real fan favourite can become, unfortunately, distressed, damaged or wounded, but you still don't want to leave him behind. He's a good old worker. So you're constantly working on your warband. But if we look at the scenario style of things, after our den upgrade, here we have our quests. So there are 20 main quests. Each one is laid out in a similar fashion. The aim of the quest, with a breakdown of its narrative, if you will. The terrain you should be looking at. Side quests, which are separate and optional. Both players make 3 rolls on the side quest table and choose 2 of them to carry out. So depending on how you choose to build your quests down the line, you can add more or less or play around with that to your heart's content. The deployment zones start and end your rewards and experience. So a fairly standard layout. I quite like the fact that they've got the 1-inch squares here as well, so you can see where things are at. But there are a few of these, like I say, 20 in total, that vary from the sort of standard, I'm not going to say kill, but two bands meeting and fighting it out, to more expansive narrative side of things, like raiding a den or interrogating a prisoner, whatever it happens to be. So plenty to get your teeth into there. The side quests at the end is on a D100 table, and they will add little wrinkles to your actual games. So it's all well and good to be in there to protect some treasure or interrogate a prisoner or whatever it happens to be, but then you may end up with several side quests that will put you at odds with your main scenario, which then obviously forces you to interact with the game in a different way. You can't just go hell for leather for the main objective and leave the side quests at the behest of your enemy, because you could find yourself falling behind in campaign terms. At the very end, we have our Appendices, which is your optional rules. So you can have a total darkness for game, which is interesting because I'm fairly certain some of those beasts are nocturnal. I've not looked to see if any of them can ignore the darkness special rule. It's possible they may. Breaking down locked doors and freelancers. So you don't have to add these in, but they can be an interesting way of leveling, or when it comes to creating your own game, if all of a sudden somebody has to deal with a large beast that your opponent has hired, or one of them is wandering around in the middle of the park, so to speak, causing issues, then that's something to be aware of. None more so than bombards. So, perhaps a watchtower is under siege and you have to deal with the fact that a bombard is being loaded and about to take out the doors or possibly the lower levels. It is a gorgeously put together book. I don't know how much has changed from first edition, because I haven't played the first edition to know the ins and outs, but from what I've been told, this is more of a compilation, cleanup, and a revisit then a whole new system. So it's just getting it into a more presentable state of affairs for the new and old players of Burrows and Badgers alike. Okay, folks, there we have it. A beautifully presented book and a weighty tome for anybody who may think that Burrows and Badgers sounds a bit light, a bit airy-fairy, and it's only going to be a few pages long. Certainly not the case. It is a fully realised world with a really in-depth game system and a slew of animals coming at you. A herd, a swarm, a mass of lemmings leaping off the cliff. There's just so much diversity in there already from Oathsworn. As far as the miniature range goes, it's only going to get bigger. And just the fact that you can build themed bands, you can have your faction being very specific, or you can have your animals being very specific, or you can be as broad as you want, really picking and choosing from amongst the great and the good of Northymbra to get your games on the table. On top of that, the campaign system, very highly developed, and the scenarios and quests within it, including those side quests, is massive, far more than you would get in a lot of games. So as a one-stop shop, everything you need in one rulebook, no expansions required. The second edition is superb and beautifully illustrated and photographed throughout as well, just really showing off just the diversity of what Oathsworn has put together. If you're already a veteran, chances are you knew this was coming and have already picked it up, because I think pretty much everybody who plays Burrows and Badgers went, second edition, yes please. And if you've just sort of dabbled around the edges or maybe seen Let's Plays or that sort of thing, the book is just sensational. So yeah, if you're looking to get into this style of gaming, a very narrative, fun feel for all the family with furries, then Burrows and Badgers second is the way to go. Let me know what you think below. Until next time, bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.